I want to begin our study in the book of Jeremiah. I want to ask you to open your Bible if you brought one, or if you can look on with someone from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 20. We're going to read part of a prayer that Jeremiah prayed on this occasion. Jeremiah, the 20th chapter, and we're going to start reading at verse 7. So follow along as we read from the Word of God. Jeremiah 20 and verse 7. O Lord, thou hast deceived me, and I was deceived. Thou hast overcome me and prevailed. I have become a laughingstock all day long. Everyone mocks me. For each time I speak, I cry aloud, I proclaim violence and destruction, because for me the word of the Lord has resulted in reproach and derision all day long. But if I say I will not remember him or speak any more in his name, then in my heart it becomes like a burning fire shut up in my bones, and I am weary of holding it in, and I cannot endure it. For I have heard the whispering of many, terror on every side. Denounce him. Yes, let us denounce him. All my trusted friends watching for my fall say, perhaps he will be deceived, so that we may prevail against him and take our revenge on him. Now, verse 14. Cursed be the day when I was born. Let the day not be blessed when my mother bore me. Cursed be the man who brought the news to my father, saying, a baby boy has been born to you, and made him very happy. But let that man be like the cities which the Lord overthrew without relenting. And let him hear an outcry in the morning and a shout of alarm at noon, because he did not kill me before birth, so that my mother would have been my grave, and her womb ever pregnant. Why did I ever come forth from the womb? To look on trouble and sorrow, so that my days have been spent? Shame? I was taught to preach to the needs of the people. And so I want to start tonight by asking a question that you can indicate by raising your hand. How many of you have ever been spiritually discouraged? Let's see the hands. I got the right crowd. You know, I think we have trouble admitting that, especially when we come here, because we look around and we see people at their best, and we wonder, I bet they don't have any problems in their life. I mean, I bet that husband and wife never have a disagreement in their house. And I bet their kids never misbehave or do anything that embarrasses their parents. I must be the only one. Well, what this prayer assures us is that no one is the only one. This is the prophet of God, Jeremiah. And even he is not the only one. Similar prayers are revealed from Moses and Elijah. Similar circumstances of Job, and even David, the man after God's own heart, was overwhelmed by the circumstances of his life. We come to the New Testament, and has it ever occurred to you the fact that the early church had a man whose name meant son of encouragement? Might imply that even the people of God became discouraged and needed somebody like Barnabas. We started yesterday talking about the war in which we are involved, fighting the good fight. And tonight I want to talk about fighting discouragement as we wage war in God's army. And I want to be upfront about something, just so we understand what we're talking about tonight. This is not mental illness. This is not clinical depression. That is a separate issue. And as surely as somebody who had a broken arm, we would not say to them, well, you just need to pray about that. You just need to have faith in God. Somebody whose spirit is broken may need medical help, may need professional help. The discouragement that we're talking about tonight is what the New Testament sometimes calls losing heart. That's what encouragement is. It's the Latin core for heart. And when you encourage someone, you put heart back into them. Just like Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 3 tells us, consider him, Jesus, who has endured such hostility by sinners against himself, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. We need to understand that even as soldiers of Christ, God's people, there will be times where we will need somebody to put heart back into us and encourage us. And so my question to you tonight is not, why are you discouraged, Christian? My question is, what are you doing about it? We've established we're not the only ones, so how are we going to overcome and deal with and battle discouragement? You have a decision to make. When you're discouraged, what are you going to do? Number one, are you going to leave the Lord, or are you going to cleave to him? Which is going to help your discouragement? Now, I hope that you were impressed by the first two words that we read tonight from the prayer of the weeping prophet. Jeremiah preached to a people who did not listen to his warnings. It was just prior to captivity where he was warning Israel, God's coming. He's not pleased. He's going to judge you. And they became so tired of listening to him that on one occasion they lowered him down into a pit, and there he just sank in the mud at the bottom. And maybe it was in similar circumstance where Jeremiah prayed these words. But look back at verse 7. Who did he address these concerns to? Even a prayer where at the end he's going to say, I wish I was never born. But he said these things to God. Oh Lord, he said, you have deceived me. What did he mean? Well, remember at the beginning when God called him to be the prophet, Jeremiah told him, I'm not up to the task, Lord. You don't want me. And God said, I'll be with you. I'll put the words in your mouth. I've known you since before you were born in your mother's womb. And now Jeremiah is feeling like, well, what happened, God? Where are you? You deceived me. I told you I couldn't do this. But he still prayed that to God. He knew that the Lord was the only one who was going to lift him up out of the mire of the mud. The only one who had the power to change the night to day. Are you going to leave the Lord when you're discouraged? Or are you going to draw closer and cleave to him? What are you doing with your discouragement? David wrote in Psalm 9, verses 9 and 10, that the Lord will be a stronghold for the oppressed. What image does that paint in your mind of God being a stronghold or a fortress, something that can't be moved? It's not shaken by the storms of life. A stronghold in times of trouble, he said, and those who know thy name put their trust in thee. For thou hast not forsaken those who seek thee. The Lord, your stronghold in the storms of life. You know, growing up in Houston on the Gulf Coast, we're used to hurricane season. We're right in the middle of it. And every year we'll get some kind of a postcard or something for National Preparedness Month for hurricane season. And I remember one year we got one and it had 3 things to do to prepare for hurricane season. And as a 3-point preacher, I thought, wow, I can use this. The first one was buy 2 weeks worth of food and water for you and your family. Number 2, store those things in the trunk of your car. Number 3, drive your car to Nebraska. They said, do that, and you won't have to worry about hurricane season. Well, what do we call it when there's one coming? And the weatherman shows the map, and it's called the cone of uncertainty. You know what I'm certain of? Is that we serve a God who could stand in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane and say, peace, be still, and it would. You tell me the things in your life God can't cause to cease? You going to leave the Lord or cleave to the Lord? How will we ever overcome without God? Notice what is said in Acts chapter 11 about what Barnabas did when he went to the city of Antioch. Acts chapter 11, keep your place here in Jeremiah 20. But look at Acts chapter 11 in the city of Antioch, where there were now Gentiles coming to the Lord, and they sent Barnabas to this new work. In Acts 11 and verse 23, and when he had come and witnessed the grace of God, he rejoiced and began to encourage them all with resolute heart to remain true to the Lord. Remain true is literally to cleave or to hold fast. Well, what does that indicate? That these new Christians were going to be tempted to leave the Lord, even by God's people, the Jewish Christians. But he encouraged them, you hold fast. You remain true. You want to have the peace of God that surpasses all understanding? Then let your requests be made known to God. Draw near to him when you're tempted to retreat and leave. Even a prayer where you're saying, God, I wish I was never born. What are you doing about your discouragement? You going to leave the Lord or cleave to him? Only he can bring morning into the joy and night into day. Question number 2, what are you going to do about your discouragement? Are you going to worry? Are you going to worship? Which one's going to help you battle discouragement? You ever had a conversation with somebody go like this? You call them up and say, "Boy, we've been missing you, and we just wanted to know, is there some way we can help you? There's some needs you have to help, and we want you to come back to the services." And they say, "Oh, well, I've got a lot going on right now, but once I get all that straightened out, then I'm gonna come back to church." You ever heard that? And the implication is I can do it on my own, and then I'll turn it back to God and his people. And we've got that backwards. Coming to worship is not going to make your problems go away. I don't want to give that impression that when you come through the doors and leave, that the problems won't be there anymore. But what worship does is help change our perspective about our problems. And it reminds us of things that are true and most important. Look back to Psalm 73 at the words of Asaph. You know Psalm 23. You know Psalm 73. And I want you to notice the words that he used to describe his change of perspective. So in Psalm 73, let's look starting at verse 12. Behold, these are the wicked, and always at ease they have increased in wealth. Surely in vain I have kept my heart pure and washed my hands in innocence, for I've been stricken all day long and chastened every morning. He's describing how the wicked people in his life are prospering. They're not even trying to do good, and it seems like they've got everything falling into place. You ever felt that way? Well, if living a godly life has got me nothing, maybe I ought to try what they're doing. Maybe I'll have better success living in the world. Surely in vain I've kept my hands pure. Verse 15, if I had said, I will speak thus, behold, I should have betrayed the generation of thy children. When I pondered to understand this, it was troublesome in my sight. Until I came into the sanctuary of God. Then I perceived therein. I came into God's presence. And then I remembered. Still have all these questions I don't know. But I returned to what I do know. Isn't it amazing how much we can talk about things we don't understand? Ricky does that every Sunday. I mean, and we may not have the answers, but boy, we can talk about it. Let's focus on what we do know, things that won't change, things upon which we have laid as a foundation for our faith in our life, so that we can sing as we already have tonight. So amid the conflict, whether great or small, do not be discouraged. Why? God is over all. You believe that? But what are you going to do in your discouragement? Are you going to worry, or are you going to worship? Worship is supposed to be a stimulating activity. So we focus on the not forsaking ourselves, as is the habit of some. But you know what the verse before that says in Hebrews 10 and verse 24? Let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, but encouraging one another. Worship is supposed to encourage us. Now, folks, if you're not here when you could be here, if you're choosing not to be here, you're missing out on your opportunity to come out of discouragement and your responsibility to provoke other people and encourage them. And so it shows not just a lack of reverence for God, it shows a lack of love for your brothers and sisters. Surely you've thought this before. On a Wednesday night, and it was a hard day, and you just didn't feel like going to Bible study. And you went anyway. And sure enough, on the way home, you thought, boy, I'm glad I came to. That's God's design for us. That's the purpose. It's for our edification and good. And what it reminds us is there are other people who are just like me. They're going through the same struggle. Met a 16-year-old boy who was a brand new Christian. He was the only one in his family who was a believer. And for that reason, his parents wouldn't take him to church, and he got to where he could walk to the building from his house and time it where he could get there just right on time. And we were talking, and he told me there was this Wednesday night he was about to leave the house, and his dad told him, "You're not going anywhere till you do the dishes." And he said he looked in the kitchen, and it was just piled over. I said, "Well, I guess you didn't get to go that night then." He said, "I did the dishes, and I ran the whole way." 16-year-old boy, no encouragement from home. What's your excuse? You gonna worry, or you gonna worship? Even Job, when he found the servants coming in one after the other, one calamity after the other in his life, fell down and worshiped. Said, "The Lord gave. I came to this earth with nothing. God gave. He has a right to take it away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." I'm not asking, why are you discouraged? I'm asking, what are you doing about it? How are you going to fight the battle? You going to worry and fret, stay up all night with anxious care about things you can't change and do anything about? Or are you going to go be with God's people and be provoked to love and good works? Question number 3. What are you doing about it? Are you going to be alone, or are you going to be apart? Isn't it funny how we talk in extremes when we get discouraged? It's kind of like a call-in sports talk show. You ever listen to one of those after a game? When your team has won the game, every call-in's, "We're going to the World Series." That one game, "We're going to the Super Bowl." But when it's a loss, every caller is, "We got to fire this coach. We got to get him out of here." It's extremes. It's hot or cold. It's one or the other. Did you notice in Jeremiah's prayer the extremes that the words he used to indicate extremes? Everyone mocks me. You ever felt that? All my trusted friends watching for my fall. Elijah said, I alone am left. I'm the only one. No one's ever suffered like me. No one's left. Whenever I just really bomb a sermon, I mean, so bad that you can smell it over the refineries in Pasadena, how bad it was. Do you know what the last thing is I want to do? Stand in the back of the auditorium and shake people's hands. I'd rather get in the car and have Melissa say, well, how do you think you did? That's a sure sign something went wrong. But I found the best thing to do after you bomb a sermon is to stand in the back and shake people's hands. Because there'll be one, and they'll look you right in the eye and say, boy, I needed that. Man, that helped me. I've been thinking about that. I've been struggling with that. And that's what we need from one another. See, we'd rather just be by ourselves. I'd rather curl up in a ball and just be alone and sulk and pout. Are you going to be alone, or are you going to be apart? Surround yourself with others who have not bowed the knee to the Baal of discouragement. In Galatians chapter 6 and verse 2, Paul says to bear one another's burdens. What that says to us first is that life has burdens. And so we should not think that we're unique and we're the only ones. And everybody else is just in a lap of luxury, and I've got all these hardships. Bear one another's burdens. That also tells us that at times these burdens will seem unbearable and cause us to think, I can't go another step. I can't do it one more day. And so what's Paul's solution? Have one another. Be apart. Be together. Encourage and strengthen one another. As a kid from Texas, we'll be on a trip somewhere making those mountain passes where you're driving on roads and you see this big drop off. And I remember being on one before where I thought there's no way we're going to make it. I mean, I didn't know how in the world we were going to get through where we were going. And I guess they expected people to think that at that point, because they had posted a sign there that said, other carriages have taken this road, drive on. And so I did. And that encouraged me. Somebody else before me has made this trip. And they were just as scared, but they kept going. And that's how you bear one another's burdens. See, we miss that when we're alone. I keep a file folder in my office of notes that I've received from people through the years. They didn't know that I was going to do that. They were just doing their part to be an encourager. But one of them I received from a sister at Southside after my grandmother died. And all she said was, I remember how it hurts. And that told me she understands what I'm feeling right now. We do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. He understands. And he's given us access into a body of believers who understand. So what are you going to do? Are you going to be alone? You're going to be apart. Times when we need to be surrounding ourselves with our brothers and sisters, we isolate. How are you going to win the battle with discouragement? Well, there's a section in Jeremiah 20 that we skipped over. I'd like to go back and read that as we come to the close tonight. Right in the middle, starting at verse 11. But the Lord is with me like a dread champion. Therefore my persecutors will stumble and not prevail. They will be utterly ashamed because they have failed, with an everlasting disgrace that will not be forgotten. Yet, O Lord of hosts, thou who dost test the righteous, who seest the mind and the heart, let me see thy vengeance on them, for to thee I have set forth my cause. Sing to the Lord, praise the Lord, for he has delivered the soul of the needy one from the hand of evildoers. A prayer of discouragement and complaint turns to praise and worship and trust in God, who controls the things that we cannot and will do the things we are unable to do. And so let's not leave him. Let's leave to him. Let's not spend our days in worry, but in worship of him. Not alone and by ourselves, but apart and surrounded by those who love us, our fellow soldiers who have not bowed the knee to Baal. What are you doing to win the battle of discouragement? Jesus, like Jeremiah, was a man acquainted with grief, a man of sorrows. And he invited all those who were weary and heavy laden to come to him for rest. Think about that. He didn't say, all whose lives are perfect, come to me. All who've got everything figured out, come to me. No, all who are weary and heavy laden, come to me. Does that describe anybody here tonight? I will give you rest. Rest for your soul, forgiveness of sin, hope for tomorrow. That's what Jesus is calling you to. And he's prepared a place free from all those things that bring discouragement, things like sickness and disease and pain and death. A place where there's no such thing as a children's hospital. No such thing as chemotherapy. No such thing as a funeral home. No such thing as discouragement. For he will have given us a new heart.